Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and if you know my channel, then you are probably aware of the fact that I really like to play community games with you all. So I already filmed videos like guessing your practice by your looks, guessing your practice by your big three. I already reacted to your assumptions about me as well as about your witchy hot takes. And I'm already planning on doing a roasting your big three video. So if you would like to see that, then tell me in the comments. But this time I thought we could do another reacting to your witchy hot takes with a little twist though. Last time I asked very publicly for your hot takes. And this time, first of all, I did not only ask for your hot takes, but also for your witchy pet peeves. So this one will be interesting. And also, I asked anonymously, so you didn't just reply to my Instagram question sticker and I could see who it is and I would basically put their Instagram tag on screen in the video. But I requested for your pet peeves and hot takes anonymously, so hopefully they will be a little bit more juicy and spicy this time. We will see. But yeah, I would suggest you get like a snack or a tea or something. I have a rooibos, I hope that is what it's pronounced in English, rooibos with, I think, caramel or toffee or something. Very, very relaxing, chill tea. So, let's dive into them. Alright, first one. Witches who constantly announce that they are moving in silence. Like, damn, then please be silent already. I mean, I get that. I don't encounter practitioners like that a lot. I know people who say that they won't share any of their practice because silence is a virtue or something like that. But I've never seen anyone announce that they are moving in silence and then announce it that loudly. So I kind of guess it's a little bit contradictory, and that let's see if my tea is already cold enough to drink. Yes, it is. Perfect. Hot, but not too hot. All right, next one. The lack of whatsoever self-reflection and the constant repeating of the same old practices like there's something new and profound. I'm getting old, I guess. Okay. The lack of self-reflection, I see that, but not only in witches. I think it's not only a witchy hot take, but it's in general a humanity hot take. Like, so many people don't reflect about themselves and don't think about themselves, which to me personally is very crazy because I do it all the time. I constantly try to find out things about myself and dig inside my subconscious and my psyche. So I kind of don't get it when people don't do that. But I mean, not everyone is the same, right? But yeah, the constant repeating of the same old practices like there's something new and profound. If they're repeated all the time and people like them, then they're probably profound, but new, not really. But I guess that also ties in with a lot of writing the same stuff, regurgitating all the same topics over and over and over. And you're kind of getting the feeling that you can't really learn anything new from witchy books. That's why I personally don't really read a lot of typical witchcraft books anymore, because I kind of feel like I don't really learn anything new. And if I learn anything new, it's like one tiny thing and I don't pay like $15 for like one tiny slip of information. So I kind of get that. You don't have to center protection in your practice, especially if it's distressing you by making you think of all the bad things that could happen. Take care, fellow practitioners with anxiety, psychosis, and OCD, or symptoms of these or other conditions that can make protection hard. Okay, I kind of get these not having to center your protection practices thing, because if you're not a person that exposes themselves very publicly, like on the internet, for example, then you're not really that much of a target. Like, there are not that many magical practitioners out there. So how big are the chances if you are a solitary practitioner, you never pissed anyone off, you don't have any practitioners around you, and I know, yes, some people do it in private and don't talk about it, but there are not a lot of practitioners out there. So how big are the chances that in your surrounding area, like the one person you pissed off in your life is a magical practitioner? Very unlikely. So I kind of feel like as long as you are respectful and nice to other people, and especially to spirits, because yes, we also have to take spirits into account. Like, spirits can get pissed off about you and do something to you. But in general, I kind of feel like as long as you are a respectful person, you are nice to other people, you respect the spirits, and like if they don't want you in their space, for example, you don't go there, you give offerings if you take something, etc. Like the typical just be respectful rules, then you probably don't have to have like 5 wards around your home and 3 wards on your person all the time. I don't know, that's probably a hot take, but I kind of feel like being cursed or hexed or jinxed by someone does not happen as often as people make it seem like on the internet. I feel like there's a lot of fear-mongering out there. So I get the thing with not having to make protection a centerpiece of your practice. The thing about practitioners with anxiety, psychosis, and OCD, or symptoms of these, I don't know about psychosis or OCD, so I cannot speak about that, but I have an anxiety disorder, and sometimes that makes you more prone to thinking that someone will attack you or something. You're just less relaxed about it in some way, so that makes you kind of feel like you have to have like 5 million protection spells so that like your anxiety calm down, so you know, you don't think that anyone could like do anything to you. So I kind of get that. I think that was actually a hot take, because so many people are like, you have to do like 5 million protection spells before you do anything else. I disagree. Okay, this is probably a pet peeve. When people ask me to do spell work for them, even after I tell them my practice is personal to me, I don't think I would be really pissed off about that. I mean, yeah, it's a respect thing. If you say it's a personal thing for me, I don't cast for other people, then they should just respect that and not pester you about it. But I mean, in general, I think it's understandable that people are curious and that people would like to have this advantage that they see magical practitioners have, that you can exert some control over mere luck. If you tell other people, oh, I'm a witch and I cast spells to, I don't know, increase the chances that I am finding a new job or a house or this and that, then of course they will be curious and they will be a little bit jealous and they will also want that. So I kind of get where the people are coming from, but yes, if you already told them you don't cast spells for other people, then they should just accept that. The goddamn lemons! Use your actual mind, people. Witchcraft is literally based on the creativity of folk. Okay, so I am not on TikTok, so I did not experience this lemon hype. I don't really know what it's about, I only know what people are saying about it. And from what they were saying, there were a lot of lemon spells going around on TikTok, because I mean, there's always witch talk trends out there. I mean, spell jars were a thing, apparently lemons are a thing now. But I agree. I kind of feel like people who practice any kind of magical practice should turn on their brain and like think about their own spells, because I think that while you are writing the spell, thinking about the spell, thinking about the ingredients, thinking about the timing, etc., you're already putting energy towards the goal, towards your intention. So I kind of feel like writing the spell is part of the spell itself, if that makes sense. But there are so many tried and true spells out there that people share in books, on TikTok, on YouTube, wherever, that it's just so easy to not have to think about your own spells anymore. There are so many thousand spell encyclopedias and stuff like that. So if you are lazy, then you don't have to write your own spells. There are a million spells out there that you can work with, which of course, let's say in the 1700s, 1800s, that wasn't the case. Like, people were lucky if they had a grimoire. That was a very valued possession. And people didn't have like encyclopedias with 1,000 spells, let alone the internet, where people uploaded spells constantly. So people had to actually think about their spells and why they're doing the thing that they're doing. The thing that bothers me most about just and exclusively using spells from books and the internet is that you are not really thinking about why the spell is written the way it is, why these specific ingredients are used, why the timing, why this chant, why this, why that. That is something that's extremely personal to the person who wrote the spell, and you will not know 100% of what goes into the spell. So I kind of feel like if you're using a spell that someone else wrote, there's always something missing. I'm not saying that it won't work. Otherwise, I would not share spells on here. I think they still work. But there's less of your energy going into it, simply because you don't know, one, you don't know everything that goes into the spell or is supposed to go into the spell energy-wise, and you're not putting the energy into writing a spell. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, go use your lemons, who cares? I like to use lemon peel in some spells, so I'm not mad about lemons in general. The fact that, just like everywhere else, groups of people promote each other aggressively, while some great content is totally off the radar. Some of the worst books are the most popular ones. You hit a little trigger point here. This could potentially get very spicy now. Okay, no shade to all of the huge creators out there that are constantly being shouted out, because there is a reason why they are shouted out and why they have the following that they have. My problem is that I kind of feel like smaller creators are not really given a chance. They are not being shouted out. They are less often invited into like panels and things like that. It's a big thing of vitamin B, as we call it in Germany, because, well, in English it would be like vitamin R, like relationships, like networking, vitamin N maybe, like you have to have the connections. And if you don't have the connections, then you are not being shouted out, you're not being put on panels, you're not being invited anywhere. So the only way that you can reach more people is by creating more content. So you have very, very slow growth. And that's not a bad thing, because by doing that, you kind of create a very organic, very nice community that actually likes the stuff you're doing. But it still kind of bothers me, because not only is it kind of unfair to smaller creators, and that's why I really want to get more smaller creators. And I mean, I am not a big creator. I'm like 30K is like, that doesn't really seem like a lot to me. But I know it seems like a lot to smaller creators with like 1,000 subscribers or something. So what I really want to do is focus on doing more interviews with smaller creators. So if you are a small creator, hit me up. Where did I want to go with this? Oh yeah, I wanted to go into the second thing why this bothers me. Not only because it makes it hard for smaller creators, but also because it makes it boring for the audience. It's always the same 5 to 10 people who are being shouted out, who get to say something, who get an audience and a platform to speak. Then there's nothing new to learn, and it gets boring. It gets repetitive, it gets boring, and I don't like that. So I would like more diversity in the content creator space. That would be great. Thank you. So if you have always thought about starting content creation in the witchy space, just do it. Do it. I want more people to create content. I want more diversity. But also something that I feel like non-native English speakers are not given the same chance as native English speakers. Or sometimes even as people from the US and Canada. Okay, I said it. Let's move on, because I don't want to piss anyone off, because I love my fellow American creators. It's just something that has occurred to me, and I wonder if that's actually the case, if it's an algorithm thing, if it's maybe also an audience thing, because maybe the audience just doesn't like listening to people speaking English with an accent. It's possible, who knows? And that of course then shows up in the algorithm. Okay, let's move on. All of the burning times myths. Education is key. I couldn't agree to that more. If you're talking about your great-grandma who was burned as a witch, and you are her granddaughter who could not be burned, then please read a history book. Thank you. When someone talks about part of their tradition or UPG, for example, the astral is like a beach and behaves as if it is fact. Oh, fuck yes. That is such a huge pet peeve of mine, especially if it's a content creator or an author or something. If it's on the internet, in a video, in a post, in a book or something, because beginners will see that and take it as fact. I have definitely done that as a beginner because I didn't know better. I had so many books about the astral realm and astral protection that were 100% people's UPG, but stated it as pure fact. And as a beginner, I read like 3 or 4 books on the astral realm and astral projection and topics like that. And I was so confused because every single book said something completely different about the realm, about how to get there, about what it looks like, because people were passing off their UPG as fact. I hate it so much. Is it so hard to just say, in my experience, it is like this or that, or my UPG is, or my experience is that it works like this or this? Is it so hard to put this tiny little disclaimer of a couple words before your sentence? I think it isn't. I believe that all the gods and goddesses of all religions are the same being or beings. No religion is wrong in who they worship because we all worship the same entity. The only difference is how we choose to worship and honor them. So technically no religion is wrong, only different. I disagree with that. But I am also a hard polytheist, so I believe that every god and goddess of any religion exists and they are their own separate beings. I don't see them like as personifications of nature or things like that. I see them as separate beings that actually exist. So I definitely disagree. Maybe it's my like Wicca starting out background. I already when I started out as a Wiccan, I didn't like the concept of one god or one goddess or like a dual god and goddess being all other gods and goddesses in one. It kind of feels disrespectful to me. To all of the other gods and goddesses, it's kind of like belittling them and being like, oh well, you're actually just a shard, a piece of something bigger. I guess I don't agree with that, but you do you. Everyone can believe in whatever they want to believe, but I definitely, yeah, I disagree with that. But I guess it's a very nice and peaceful way to look at it, because if everyone looked at it that way, that would mean that we would not have to wage war because of religion. Because that would mean we are actually in the end all worshipping the same entity. So I guess that would be a big positive. People who act like deities are their pets. It makes my blood boil. Yeah, I totally get that. I guess Loki does not want to go to Starbucks with you and have a coffee with you. The lighting will probably be a little bit different now because I had to put it on auto so that I don't have to stand up all the time and adjust the lighting situation. So, people who act like deities are their pets. Yes, deities are still deities. And they're probably not here to hold your hand 24/7. They are deities. They have better things to do than hold your hand all the time and just be there with you 24/7. They have a lot of other things to do. Do you want to know how many people worship one specific deity? Probably a lot of people. So they're definitely not your property or your pet. Lack of critical thinking. People need to evaluate information and books better on accuracy. Ask why. Yes, don't just take things for fact. Especially if it comes from content creators. Because I know parasocial relationships are a thing and you kind of feel like creators on the internet are your friends, but they're not. And we don't know you and we're not your friend and we make mistakes. We are not perfect. People put creators on a pedestal and believe that creators are like all-knowing. Well, we are not. We write very long scripts and then we speak them into the camera and then we cut out all of the ms and ahs and the awkward pauses. We do a lot of research before we make our videos. If you asked us about the same topic on the street, that would probably look a lot different than in our videos. So we are definitely not perfect and we don't know everything, and we also make mistakes and give out misinformation from time to time. So please do not just take what you hear from creators as fact. And the same applies to books, because even if you might think that a book is more reliable, in the witchy space, I would not necessarily agree with that. Oh, this is a good one. Making moon water all the time, I feel like it works like holy water and you can just add more water to it to keep it going. That's interesting because I mean that depends on how you believe energy works, you know? Do you believe the water is charged by the moon? And then as soon as it touches something else, this moon energy gets transferred to everything else? Or do you believe that this energy of the moon in the water dissolves over time, because there's also a lot of people who feel like you have to recharge a lot. I guess it depends on how you believe energy works. With talismans, I kind of don't feel like you have to recharge them. Put your intention into them and your energy into them and you consecrate them, and I kind of feel like the consecration part locks it into the talisman. So I personally do not recharge them, but you do you. I dislike it when people call themselves pagan, but they still have a Christian mindset, or be accepting of witchcraft, but only when it follows certain rules and what gods or spirits shouldn't be worshipped. In paganism, we don't see that black and white. We see our gods and spirits as nature. Yeah, I mean, they can do whatever they like, but they just shouldn't make up rules for other people. Do your witchcraft in a very love and light way. Nobody cares, but please just don't make rules for everyone else and pretend that only because you see it that way, everyone else has to do it that way. I guess it is totally normal if you come from a heavily Christian background and you go into more of a pagan belief system, that there are lingering Christian beliefs and mindsets that you don't really get rid of right away. So I guess it's totally normal, and I'm not really bothered by that per se. But yeah, as soon as people like that make rules for everyone else, and I mean that also applies to other people, that also applies to, I don't know, someone who would say you have to hex people, you know? If you don't hex people, you are not a witch or something. I guess to me it doesn't really have to do anything with lingering Christian beliefs or something, more with the making rules for other people or making other people feel lesser than because they are not practicing by these lingering Christian beliefs. If you bond with a thing, metal, crystal, herb, etc., you can find ways to use it for any spell. Let me think about that. I mean, maybe? I haven't tried it. I don't know. Do I think that is true? I don't know. I cannot think about a way to, for example, use chamomile to hex or to use ginger to calm down, you know? I don't know. Since I haven't tried it, I cannot say anything about that. But definitely if you bond with a thing, you will find many, many more ways to use it than if you just look at a correspondences chart. That is definitely true. Definitely, definitely. The consumerism, you don't need to buy all the crystals, herbs, random other items. You can use what you have already. I definitely agree. And I always tell people that I think it would be the smartest thing to do when it comes to, for example, herbs, to start researching the plants around your area that already grow around you, because I bet that if you do research on them, and especially if you connect to them intuitively, I would suggest you do that first, that you will find any herb you need around you, already growing around you. You won't have to buy any herbs. You will find everything you have around you. And you do not need crystals. You can work with stones. You can just use any kind of pebble and derive their properties, for example, from which shape they have, what they look like, where you found them, for example, in a lake or in a river or on a graveyard. You can use dirt. There is so much you can do. You can use your own energy. You can use, I mean, your energy, of course, but you can use your life energy. You can use your blood. You can use your voice. There is so much you can do without having to buy stuff. But I'm also a maximalist and I like having stuff. And I own a shop, so still buy stuff, especially mine. But definitely agreed, you don't have to buy anything. People didn't used to do that. They didn't go out and buy like 20 different crystals. Definitely not. And it still worked. That's why if you look at folk magic, you have so many spells that just use household items and it works. Okay, not witchy but heathen. This sounds promising. I hate that we talk about signs from the gods. We meditate to be closer to them. We speak to them in our lives and practices. Yet people tell you you are nuts when you say they have spoken back. What is the point if it is one-sided? People tell you you're nuts when they talk back? At least people haven't said that to me. But if they do, that sounds strange. I agree. Isn't the point that you get a response in any kind of way? It doesn't have to be an auditory response. It doesn't have to be them actually talking. But even if it's just like a sign or something, and if you ask them for something, isn't the point that they, in the end, they grant you that wish and they do it? Isn't that also talking back? Why would you worship a deity for nothing? That doesn't really make sense to me. There is usually some kind of thing that you get from worshipping a deity. And if you never get anything back, why? Why do you do it? I don't like when people try to coerce or command spirits to do their bidding. Maybe I'm just a softie, but I'd rather build organic relationships with spirits and have them help me because they want to, and not just because I showed up at their doorstep and demanded their assistance. I could not agree more, and I guess I am a softie. I am definitely a softie, but I agree, I would never feel comfortable bossing spirits around. I don't know, it's just, to me, that's just disrespectful. If you like to do that and it works for you, do that. But I don't know, I like to treat spirits kind of like people. And I'm not a person who bosses people around. That's just not what I do. So I also don't do that with spirits. I mean, I haven't tried to boss them around, but I would guess that they would be much more willing to help you if you are nice to them. Labels are more detrimental than helpful, i.e. Storm Witch, Sun Witch, Lake Witch, etc. Instead, it forces the practitioner to build their practice around the label rather than putting a label onto a practice. It hinders creativity and prevents them from advancing into magic past surface level, in my opinion. I agree if people give themselves this label very early on. That's why I always advise beginners not to look for a label right away. I mean, in general, you don't need a label. Witch or magical practitioner is already a label. Why doesn't that suffice? But apart from that, yes, if you do it too early, then you run the risk of making yourself and your practice smaller than it has to be. And if you feel like you have practiced for a couple of years and your practice has like condensed itself by itself organically into something that fits a specific label, then feel free, like give yourself that label, because if you already practice that way and you give yourself the label afterwards, then you're probably not restricting yourself practice-wise. But if you give yourself the label right away, like after 2 months or so, then yeah, you run the risk of feeling like you have to adhere to that label. The online witchcraft community is boring and one-sided. I feel like everyone is copying each other. The same goes for witchcraft shops. Sorry people, but I don't need more candle jars with crystals on top. Yeah, I mean, I got into this a little bit already with content creators and what happens if always the same voices get a platform. Because yeah, then it gets boring and one-sided because everyone just copies each other. But I feel like a huge thing why the online witchcraft community gets a little bit repetitive and boring is because people are so insanely judgy online, and cancel culture in the witchcraft community is real. You have to just have one slip up and say one wrong thing and people will scold you over it. People will cancel you over it. People will hate you for it and never watch your content ever again. That creates an intense fear for creators. I definitely know what that feels like, and there's a fly flying around me. Loki, is that you? I know what that feels like. You kind of feel like as soon as you're saying something that could be a little bit more spicy and that could be a little bit of a hot take, that people will cancel you over it. Or if you make a mistake, that you are being cancelled over it. If you tell people about a little bit more of like your own experience and that doesn't align with what the majority says, you will be cancelled over it. People are so insanely judgy, and as content creators, you are extremely vulnerable for hate like that. And a lot of people don't want to get that kind of hate and judgment. So they just resort to making safe content. And that in the end means that people are copying each other, because if you make content that's already there in a large quantity and you're talking about the same topics and basically regurgitating the information, the chance of you getting cancelled or being judged or getting hate online is much, much slimmer than if you do something new or risky. That's probably why there is basically no one talking about cursing online, because people will cancel you for it. I kind of feel like it's not just a creator problem, it's a huge audience problem. It's a general community problem because people like to get heated about things that they don't really have a reason to get heated about. And with witchcraft shops, I guess it depends. If I look on Etsy, yes, because the thing is, Etsy will show you what is popular, and other platforms like that will show you what's popular. And what's popular is the light and love, fluffy kind of stuff, and the things that are easy to make. And as a shop owner myself, I can tell you that if you have experience with like intentions and what crystals and herbs to use and stuff, it's rather easy to make candles especially if you use candles that are already there and you just have to add crystals and herbs to it. It looks pretty and then everyone likes it, and if you make products that the like love and light new age people also like, then you have a huge potential group of buyers, and Etsy likes that and pushes the product to the top. But if you make something that's a little bit more obscure, then people won't find it. If you make stuff that people will like and that a lot of people will like, and that's usually the love and light fluffy stuff, then you will get engagement and more money, and if you're a person that lives off of that money, then you are kind of forced to do it. Etsy just pushes the love and light fluffy boring stuff. That's just the way it is. But I can tell you, there are a lot of people who try to do one-of-a-kind stuff with their shops, me included. There is no such thing as being gifted. You can learn anything if you set your mind to it. Okay, I agree in general, because I also feel like you can learn anything you want. But I still feel like there are people who have talents. Just like with other hobbies, like some people are very talented at painting, some people are very talented at singing, and some people are very talented at sports. And that doesn't mean that other people cannot learn to do it. That just means that those people who have a talent for something just have a little bit more of a head start when it comes to learning that thing. I kind of feel like that applies to witchy topics the same as mundane things. You can do love and baneful magic all the same as your protections and cleansings as a beginner. I also think you don't need to worship any deity or personality to be a real witch, which I didn't like a certain YouTuber saying. I also found that the more popular witchy YouTubers are very arrogant. Okay. Alright, you can do baneful magic all the same as your protections and cleansings as a beginner. I would agree, you can fuck around and find out. I would say with baneful magic, there's just more of an effect that you can have on other people that's more negative, so I would guess maybe don't do that as your first spell. But I mean, who am I to tell you what to do, right? So, of course you can do it. Would I advise you to do it? Not necessarily. Love magic, yeah, I mean, why not? Maybe you will like get a weird attachment to someone or something like that. As long as you know how to undo it, do whatever the fuck you want. You don't need to worship any deity or personality to be a real witch. Definitely agreed, witchcraft has nothing to do with worshipping a deity. Literally has nothing to do with it. And a YouTuber said that? I'm so curious which YouTuber said that. Because I kind of feel like that's not a YouTuber I watch, because I've never heard anyone say something like that. I also found that the more popular witchy YouTubers are very arrogant. You found that. You found that because you know them personally, or you think that because of what their videos portray? Because I feel like there is a huge difference in what a person comes across as in their videos and what the person actually is like as a person. In general, I don't like calling people something if you don't know them personally, if you only know them from their posts online, because that is not what they are in real life. I can assure you. Talking about baneful magic, I don't believe spells can backfire. That sounds like Christian-esque fear-mongering to keep people from practicing. I don't think the universe works as close-knit as we think, and some bad luck after you cursed your boss is not because of your spell entirely. There are way more aspects to how things work. I don't really like the term backfiring too. I don't really like the term. I kind of just feel like spells sometimes don't work as you intended them to do, and that leads to it maybe having a negative effect on you, or just in general an effect that you did not intend with the spell. But yeah, backfiring, I have even heard people talk about like a money spell backfiring. It just didn't work the way you wanted it to. Let's just call it that. Because yes, I agree, backfiring just kind of makes it seem bigger and more scary than it actually is. I hate it when more experienced witches going newbie bashing on Facebook, and as a consequence those newbies get A, frightened to ask anything, and B, lean heavily into spiritual histrionics in an effort to seem worthy. Okay, I'm very glad right now that I'm not on Facebook anymore. I haven't been for a long time. But I agree, I mean in general, not only in the witchcraft sphere, but in general, why should more experienced people go bashing newbies? That's just fucked up, because everyone was a newbie at some point, and only because you have practiced witchcraft for 5, 10, 20 years doesn't make you better than someone who has just found out about it and started practicing it. Beginners will always make mistakes, and beginners will also always have questions about things that may sound dumb to you, because for you as someone who has practiced for, let's say, 10 years, it is such a natural thing by now and so obvious. But a beginner who has done it for a month, how are they supposed to know? But in general, yeah, I hate newbie bashing, and it doesn't make any sense. Everyone was a newbie at some point. Alright, since I was cut off by my camera twice now because it was overheating, let's close off this video. I still would have like a million pet peeves and hot takes to go through, so if you want another part, then tell me in the comments. If you have any opinions about any of these hot takes or pet peeves, also share them in the comments. And with that being said, let me shout out my lovely patrons and YouTube members. Thank you so much to Alexa, Jasmine, Naomi, Shaw, Christiana, T Demon, Elizabeth, Sylvia, Penny, Wirfestira, Katrina, V, Bella, Derek, Smiley, Robin, Kirsten, Shannon, Andrew, Tisha, Sarah, Stanley, Rowan, Aziza, Carrie, August, Hannah, Shelby, Helena, SJ, Merle, Anne, Kate, Cade, Z, Kent, Brittany, Emerceline, Small Kata, Josh, Elinora, Knarr, Kristny, Rixie Business, Annalena, Svenna, Ashley, Tim, John, Phoenix, Jenny, Maggie, Misty, Amy, Bethany, Timothy, Coffee, or the Honorary Gossip Squirrel, and Bjorn. And now the YouTube members, thank you so much to Betsy, Peony, Rain, Mila, Katie, and Crystal. As always, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up. And also ring the bell down below so you're notified whenever I upload a new video. If you want to, you can check out my socials as well as my shop for ethically and sustainably sourced witchy wares, which is now reopened, so go check it out. And if you want to support me in another way, then feel free to check out my Patreon or my YouTube membership. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Bye!